If you were to ask people what they want for their lives, over the course of their lives, just these broad goals, I think you'd find most people would say they want happiness. The interesting thing about that is that it presumes that we have an understanding of what happiness is and that we're all in agreement. I mean, being happy is so obvious that we've long since stopped trying to define it. Let's take a minute and see if we can define happiness. Happiness is enjoying my time, enjoying my day, doing things I like to do. As I think it through and try and put it to words, that I start sounding a bit like a third grader. I want lots of friends and toys that I like and not have to do things I don't want to do. What is happiness? If that's a goal in life, I think we need to figure out a little bit more specifically about what it is. Because there's a whole lot of people spend their lives chasing something they think will make them happy. And in reality, once they get it, they're no more happy than they were before. James Taylor had a song that came out when I was a boy that said, "The secret of life is enjoying the passage of time." I remember being a little uninspired at the time, but as I've gotten older, that actually is it's as good as anything I've ever come up with, enjoying your time here. If that is the case, we got to be thinking about this stuff before we spend our lives chasing those things. Maybe get a better understanding of what happiness is to you. Because finding out 30 years later that the thing you always thought you wanted wasn't is a bitter pill. How much happiness do you really need to be happy and to achieve the goal of having a life filled with happiness? Let's put a little bit of scale to this. Imagine a graph, a PowerPoint, where 0 to plus 10 is happy. And 0 to minus 10 is unhappy, with increasing levels of happiness all the way up to joy, and unhappiness down to misery. And you can sort of chart it. And 0 is in the middle. So how high on this do you have to be happy? I mean, you're going to Hawaii, so you're kind of up here in pretty positive territory. That's a plus 6 or 7 at least. And if that's your standard, and anything less than a 7 isn't enough to satisfy you, you're not going to have that much happiness in your life, because you've defined happiness as being something really extraordinary. Now, if on the other hand you decide that 0 to plus 10 is all happy territory, lower levels are content. Let's call 0 to 2. To be honest, I would call minus 1 to a plus 2 content. A minus 1 is just a little bit unhappy. Now, I think a man who is just a little bit unhappy needs to learn how to shake that off. You're probably just bored or hungry. Nobody wants to hang out with a dude who's a little bit unhappy. Now, this rule doesn't apply to women. When your girlfriend tells you she's a little bit unhappy, and she's not a little unhappy, she's mad, and you're in trouble, dude. Let's say a minus 1 to a 2 is content. Now, content isn't bad. Content might be pretty good. So you have to decide, is content not a good thing? And the important thing to remember about content is basically having all your needs met with an absence of real unhappiness. If you were suffering in some real way and you're down in a minus 5, 6, I mean, you're in a very hard, difficult, unhappy place. That's rough. I get it. I've been in unhappy places from time to time, which have made me appreciate how good content is. To have all of your needs basically getting met without any major misery or suffering is worth appreciating. Neil deGrasse Tyson has described how miraculous it really is that the atoms and molecules that make up our bodies have been around for billions of years, and for them to have formulated and come together to create what we are today, a living, conscious human being, is nothing less than a miracle. That all of this matter, which is so old, came together to become you. In fact, even having been born, to be able to be alive, where this matter comes together to enjoy a lifetime, is essentially winning the intergalactic lottery. I mean, it is a miracle that you are alive. You should take time and appreciate how extraordinary that is. But most matter doesn't live. So the breath of life is kind of a big deal, and I think we take that for granted. Humanity, in its various forms, have been around for millions of years. We weren't really clearly at the top of the food chain. I think we're pretty high up, but, you know, people got eaten, and other people had to go get clubs and sticks and rocks and go kill animals that were eating people. And so we kind of battled for food chain supremacy. These days, we're at the top of the food chain. People don't really get eaten all that much anymore. I mean, every now and again, a shark will take a bite out of somebody, or a mountain lion will get a hiker. If you think about it, out there, everything is eating everything else. I'm actually kind of grateful we ended up at the top of the food chain. We don't live in fear that something's going to eat us. I think that's worth kind of recognizing as a good thing. Today, we do have pretty decent lives. We've got a roof over our heads, we've got climate controlled comfort, a fridge full of food to eat, and a grocery store with everything we could possibly imagine minutes away. We have so much luxury and comfort these days that we simply take for granted. I think if you were to go back in history to just about any era, go back 100 years to 6 million years, I think you would find just about any living human would be more than happy to take your life. We have it pretty good. Going back to the idea of content, you have more comfort and luxury than 99% of any living creature that's ever existed in the known universe. And you're not happy? I'm pretty sure if that doesn't do it for you, a new car or a new house or a new job isn't going to impress you. The problem there is you've acclimated. You've gotten used to all this good stuff. So the next good thing you get, you're just going to get used to it. Yes, you're going to buy a new house and you're going to love it. But then, I don't know, 3 to 6 months in, you're going to kind of forget about it. It's just going to be the new normal. And you're going to want something else. And that raises a really important topic. We want a lot of things. We are a very wanting species. Now, it's important to recognize that wanting will always exist. No matter how much you have, you will want more. You could be the richest man on the planet, and you're going to want something more. You're going to want to go to space. I don't know. What do you want after that? They'll come up with something, I'm pretty sure. Learn to control that wanting nature and the expectations that you put on getting the things that you want. You can create unhappiness because you want too many things, or you want things that are impractical. What I found actually is when people get things, oftentimes they take them for granted. For instance, having the breath of life, being at the top of the food chain, having a stocked fridge with a grocery store nearby, with Netflix and an Xbox, and all of the things you have that you now simply assume are part of the baseline of your life. There's no reason to believe you're not going to just take that new car and that new house and hardly even notice it. Now, one point I'd like to make is that wanting is not the absence of happiness. I think some people make that mistake. I think wanting means you don't have something, and that not having what you want is dissatisfying and is unhappy. Well, if that is the case, you will always want, and you will therefore always be unhappy. Those two things need to be separated from one another. It's okay to want and still be happy. I would make this point. If you aren't happy now, you don't know how to be happy. Happy isn't out there. A lot of people chase what's out there, and they spend their lives pursuing happiness as if it's out there. And they achieve a lot of goals only to pick a new goal in pursuit of happiness. Happiness isn't out there, it's in here. Your ability to recognize what you do have and see how good your life is one of those big steps in becoming happy, to be able to live a life that's satisfying to you, that's fulfilling to you, is recognizing the good stuff when you have it.